Welcome to the After Hours Lounge on 1620 The Zone, the 1620 The Zone app, and 1620thezone.com. When 6A to 6P isn't enough, the boys have you covered. Here's Jimmy Allen
and John Schreiner.
Happy Wing Wednesday, everybody. Welcome inside the After Hours Lounge. Jimmy Allen, Michael Severe sitting in for John Schreiner tonight. Dan Campinen sitting in for Dan Campinen. We got a great show lined up for you. We're going to grade the entire Husker coaching staff, A through F, from the head coach all the way down. We'll grade the staff as a whole. The NFL draft is in 64 days, and Michael Severe is here. So we're going to talk about the top 10 picks and which Huskers will be drafted at 6:30. We'll buy or sell on several different topics, and then we'll talk about the state of the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Michael and I are both big comic heads. Michael skipped out on seeing the new Captain America movie to be here tonight.
My kid had to work.
You like me more than your family. It's fine.
My kid had to work, so we're going tomorrow.
Brian Munson from Husker Online and On3 will join us at 7:30, and then we'll wrap up the night with our Papillion Sanitation trash takes of the night. It is a Wing Wednesday brought to you by Cunningham's Pub, which means Derek Richards from Cunningham's Pub is with us tonight. Obviously, a very big day in America and Irish heritage coming up next month. What are the plans for St. Patty's Day?
For St. Patrick's Day, we open at 10 a.m. And
that late?
Yeah, we don't. I did the 6 a.m. thing.
Yeah,
for years,
I did. I used to go cover that.
I'm old now.
And they would be drinking the liquid cocaine.
Yeah,
at 6 a.m. Like, you people are awesome.
I'm like, dude, we don't need to be open at 6. We do 10.
Yeah,
and we'll start. So it's on Monday this year,
which sucks. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna do like corned beef and cabbage starting Saturday. So we'll do Saturday, Sunday, Monday as kind of like an extended St. Patrick's Day weekend.
We have bagels Monday morning at 10 a.m. when you open. No bagels.
No bagels. We did all that. We used to do
back in the day. I know.
Times have changed.
Yeah, times have changed.
You guys just did the super buffet for the Super Bowl. How what was the turnout for that like?
It was great. We had a great turnout. It was fun
at both locations.
Actually, yeah, Blackstone had a really good turnout.
Good.
Old Mill had. It wasn't. We haven't done it for a few years, and I don't know as if people were necessarily as excited. Like a lot of people that came for the Super Buffet, they only came for the Super Buffet.
Okay.
So there we had I'd say probably a third of the crowd didn't really care about what was on the TV, which blew my mind. But no, we had a great turnout for it. It was fun.
You were the first place that I ever heard of like the peanut butter jelly, peanut butter, whatever wings. I'd never seen that before.
We originated.
I remember it was the first time I walked in there, and I don't eat peanut butter, but my wife obsessed with it. And she was so excited with the first time she saw it.
Yeah, I think we originated.
I had never seen it
Omaha,
before. I had never seen it before.
I mean, it was probably somewhere else.
Yeah.
That,
no,
but
she loves them.
We used to do. I worked at a place that used to do like a Thai peanut sauce on a sandwich.
Right.
And then when we started Cunningham's, I'm like, this should
definitely
be on some chicken.
Not a bad idea.
People are saying it's hard to hear you, man.
Oh, sorry.
Swallow the mic, kid.
Yeah, there you go.
Got to get in close.
Stacy, let us know if that's fixed. Hey, you guys have been running into some issues at the Blackstone District with parking. That has been fixed. Can you tell people that are struggling and texting and tweeting at us about where to go to park? Can you tell them where to do so?
So our Blackstone location now has more parking than our Old Mill location. It is directly across the street from us. It doesn't necessarily look finished because they're still working on the facade of the building, but there's 385 spots. It's right across the street. So there is no parking issue in Blackstone anymore. They have resolved that. It's kind of hard to tell from the outside because they actually made the parking garage look really nice.
Yeah.
But it is huge. And there's tons of parking in there.
What is the obviously we know the tap takeovers aren't coming back until after St. Patrick's Day. Do we know what the plan after St. Patrick's Day is?
Yeah, we'll have our lineup. We'll go through we'll do tap takeovers. We're going to do our beer Olympics again this year. So we'll have probably 3 tap takeovers, and I think this year when it gets a little cold outside again, we're going to do something with whiskey this year. So we'll do a couple beer and then a whiskey one.
We're 3 weeks away from Selection Sunday. Do you have any plans for the NCAA tournament coming up?
Every year for the NCAA, we get a huge crowd.
Yeah, I bet.
It's just a fun day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't do anything crazy for it. We're just open. And we get packed every year. It's a lot of fun. We've got so many there's a ton of, we've got all the 80-inch TVs, so we have all the games on, no problem. Honestly, it's just a lot of fun.
The craziest day I ever remember being at a sports bar was the first time I remember St. Patrick's Day falling on that Thursday.
Yeah.
And so you had the St. Patrick people in there at 6 a.m. at the place we were, And then 10:30, people started rolling in to watch the games.
Yes.
And the other people were already invested.
That was one of the last years we did
really
like 6 o'clock in the.
Oh,
it was
crazy.
a lot.
That was the longest
was that
day.
why?
My,
That-
my
that
staff
did it for
was
you?
like, I
Long
was
day.
toast. My staff was like, and I'm pretty sure that that was like Thursday, and then we had to turn around and open back up. It was like March
10 a.m.
Madness
on Friday.
continued
Yeah.
onto the
The next
Friday,
day. Yep,
and we
yep.
had people rolling, and we opened at 10 the next day, and had people
rolling back
right
in. Yeah.
I was like, I think that might have been like the nail in the 6 o'clock coffin. Everybody was like, dude, we can't.
I solved, by the way, the parking problem in Blackstone.
You did?
Yeah, I just walked from my house.
There you go. Yeah, that'll do it.
We just walk over. We don't put our car to the mix, so it makes it easy on everyone else.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
That is very. That
You're
is
welcome.
Very
No
considerate.
problem
That is very
whatsoever.
nice.
I have no problem with that.
You guys just added some new items to the mix. What's been the response for like the garlic parm buff wings and the other items that you've added to the menu?
Oh, it's been good. The garlic parm have gone over really well. The classic cheeseburger, actually, the jalapeno popper burger has
Ooh,
been
so
the
good.
most popular
Ooh, that sounds
of the new
good.
stuff that we've
Ooh.
added. So we've got some very positive feedback on that.
Garlic parm, that's my youngest favorite. That's my 15-year-old's favorite wing.
You know,
He loves it.
We'd had it at a couple other bars, and I thought, I kind of like this. And then
Mm.
we started getting customers like, hey, you got to do this garlic parmesan thing,
Yeah.
the buffalo parmesan. I'm like,
Mm.
all right, we'll try some out. So we decided to make some sauce.
When is beer Olympic? Somebody just asked. Sorry.
Oh man, you put me on the spot. When did we do it last year?
Do you do it
It's
during
months
the Olympics?
out. It's like I gotta go back and look. I
Okay.
can't remember what month we did
Uh,
it. It's in the summer.
Zach, tune in 2 weeks. We'll let you know.
Hold
soon.
on. When did the Olympics end last year? The actual
Wasn't it like
Olympics?
August?
August.
Yeah.
It was at late August. So we'll
Okay.
probably do that same time frame. I think we did it the last day of the Olympics last year, or something like that.
Zach, we'll get a for sure answer for you.
Sorry
in
about
two-
that.
in 2 weeks.
I'm busy
Uh,
thinking about corned beef right now.
We mentioned that we were going to be patriotic today. We're eating the USA 1A burger in lieu of the U.S. versus Canada hockey game. Are you guys going to have those on the TV as well?
Yeah, we'll have the hockey on.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah,
and
the burger. Yeah.
What is on the A1A USA 1A burger?
It's the USA one. It's a A1 aioli,
Oh,
got cheddar
I
cheese,
love A101.
crispy onions and lettuce with the
There it
with
is,
the
right there.
burger.
for-
Yeah,
that's
it's
one of-
it's
You know who
tasty.
you
Fantastic.
invented that
A1.
locally? No. Do you know who invented the A1As or the A1 aioli here in Omaha?
I do not.
Little King.
Really?
Little
First ones
King
that had
did?
it. Little King.
I did
Yeah.
not know
Really?
that.
That was
I
one
like
of Little
Little
King's
King.
little inventions they had.
Nice, very
Yeah,
nice.
it was pretty
Yeah,
good.
we whipped some up today. It's got creamy horseradish,
Yeah.
mayo, and A1 sauce.
So good. My wife
So-
hates it. I love it so
It's,
much.
I'm eating it right now. It is absolutely
Love it. That's a
fantastic.
good looking burger.
Get down to Cunningham's tonight and grab one of the burgers and the absolutely delicious char buffed wings as well. Derek, we hit on a lot. Is there anything else going on at Cunningham's that people should know?
No, just it's corned beef. All hands on deck.
Yeah.
You're just
Beef
boiling
right now.
corn.
Hey,
corned beef
listen,
out there,
We
and
right?
just got
I've been
hundreds
very-
of pounds of
I've-
corned beef.
I've been very-
I'm so excited.
I've been very vocal about this. I do not like corned beef. This man's corned beef is
Do
the
you-
only corned beef I've ever
Do
had
you
that
like
I like.
pastrami?
I do. I love
So you
pastrami.
like corned beef with pepper?
Yeah, pretty
Okay,
much.
that's
Yeah.
cool. I understand.
Yeah, just
I
just
think
make
people- I
it make
think-
it spicier.
I
and
think
have
some
flavor.
people have a bad experience with corned beef.
I just think it's not as flavorful as the pastrami,
Just
and
tastes
people
like
look
water
at it
meat.
and think it's the same
you know,
thing.
I could see that.
It's
But
just
I
a
think
flavor
some people
thing.
get corned beef that's not cooked right. And it
Oh,
can be a
I'm
little
sure.
That's
chewier.
definitely what I've
So
had.
we do ours a little different. Like on St. Patrick's Day, we do like a corned beef steak. Like it's thick,
Nice.
like 3/4 of an inch. We give it like 2 or 3 pieces of
Uh-huh,
that.
yeah,
and it's
yeah.
just fork tender.
Yeah.
That's how we. So it's not like I don't know how to.
I like it
I enjoy
now.
the way we do.
I like it now, but when we used to have tongue when I was growing up. That was
Yeah.
a big thing for us.
See, I think that's what
And
did it.
so
for me,
that
too.
did that to me. When I see the corned beef, I think tongue, and
That
but
might
I've
be
gotten
my-
over it.
Can't
I've
go
gotten
back.
over it.
That might be my problem.
I've gotten over it. It's all that tongue we ate growing
You
up.
said my dad would never eat tuna salad. I'm like, Dad, what's the problem? He's like, this is all we ate.
Oh,
when
yeah,
I was a child.
right.
That's all we could afford was
Yeah,
like
exactly.
canned tuna fish. He's like,
Yeah.
I'll never eat it again.
Yeah, spam, bro. There's a lot of spam.
Hey, if you want to celebrate St. Patrick's Day on us, head over to our Twitter page at After Hours 1620. Retweet the GIF of the wings tonight. We're going to enter you to a drawing to win a $25 gift card to Cunningham's Pub and Grill. 2 great locations, the Old Mill location of the historic Blackstone District. Head over to our Twitter page and retweet and like our page tonight. Derek, thanks for doing this. We'll catch up with you in a couple weeks.
Of course. Thank you.
Don't
Thanks,
forget,
Derek.
don't forget to let us know when Beer Olympics is.
Oh
when you
yeah, I'll
come
get
back.
that.
When we come back, we're gonna grade the entire Nebraska football coaching staff here on 1620 The Zone. Hey, everybody, it's Jimmy Allen here for Jerry Ryan Clothing and Sportswear. I stopped at Jerry Ryan today, taking a look at all the stuff they brought in the Roan lineup. If you're looking for new pants to get out on the golf course with, or you need a new polo or polos for the golf season, you need to stop by 78th and Dodge. They've been dressing Omaha for over 50 years. That doesn't happen by accident. You need to get in, get your golf game ready and your closet ready for the Lynx this spring. Head over to 78th and Dodge. Jerry Ryan, dressing Omaha for over 50 years.
Frigid temperatures continuing into your Wednesday evening. Right after sundown, we'll see the breeze calm down a little bit, but then the temperatures really plummet, maybe even double digits below zero before your head hits the pillow tonight. Starting tomorrow morning, double digits below zero, and then temperatures rising maybe at about 8 degrees for the afternoon high. I'm meteorologist Luke Vickery, KETV Newswatch 7.
Are you ready to elevate your taste buds? Look no further than Pepper Jacks, your go-to destination for bold flavors and endless choices. Dive into their mouth-watering rice bowls, crisp salads, hearty Phillies, savory burritos, and loaded nachos. What sets them apart? Complete customization. Choose your base, proteins, toppings, and sauces for a personalized culinary adventure. At Pepper Jacks, it's not just a meal, it's an experience. Unleash your cravings and savor the bold tastes at Pepper Jacks today. Life's too short for bland. Spice it up at Pepper Jacks.
Did you know that Bellevue University is making a major investment in its athletic programs with a new $25 million athletic center? This state-of-the-art facility will feature multiple practice and competition courts, a modern 6,800 square foot sports performance and fitness center, an advanced golf simulator, and a new lounge area for our student athletes. The athletic center will open in early 2025. Come see the future of Bruin athletics. Schedule a tour, meet with other athletes, and explore Bellevue University for yourself. Visit BUBruins.com.
Criminal, civil, personal. If you or a loved one is facing a lawsuit, let Williams Law represent you and your family today. With more than 20 years litigation experience in Nebraska, Williams Law will defend you with the dedication you deserve. If you're facing a DUI or if your son or daughter has been accused of a crime, Williams Law is here for you. Call 402-522-6317 to get a free, no-obligation consultation and to get the representation you deserve today.
My name's Stephen Butler, and I own Controlled Comfort, and we've been in business for 6 decades, and in those 6 decades, I like to think that everything we do is about the art of comfort. It's about the skill of our people, but it's also about the integrity, because at the end of the day, I value my employees, so they value you, and that's really all this is about. If you get cold this winter, think about us. We'll come help you out. We'll get you out of bind. It'll be fair, it'll be fast, and it'll be the right price.
Controlled Comfort, keep
9:16 on a Wing Wednesday edition of the After Hours Lounge, brought to you by Bellevue University. If you're looking for the ideal college experience this fall, head over to bellevue.edu. Register for classes. You don't have to attend classes on a Friday. Most of your classes are done online. Check out bellevue.edu for more details tonight. Michael Severe is in for John Schreiner tonight. Thanks for doing this. I don't know if I've said that yet. I appreciate you.
No problem.
There have been some additions to the Nebraska football coaching staff over the last couple of months, and I wanted to look through the entire coaching staff and give the grades that we see fit. See if we can agree.
Have you checked out the actual listing on Huskers.com?
I have not.
Have you checked it out? So they still have Ed Foley.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
They haven't changed that still.
I'm sorry. I thought you were saying that Huskers.com did this practice. They
no.
That feels like a bad idea.
That would be weird.
Yes, I did see that today.
The fact that he's still on there.
I
was laughing this morning about that.
And Huskers Online did their breakdown of who's getting paid, and it's just like Nebraska's probably the only coaching staff in the country where the tight ends coach is the highest paid assistant throughout the nation. So that's going to be an interesting point when we get to the tight ends coach and Marcus Satterfield's status in Nebraska.
They still have not paid up to the amount that they originally was given for his staff.
Yeah.
He still hasn't recently. I never understood why the first time they hired everybody they hired that they didn't go to the max. If somebody tells me I'm going to give you $11 million to go hire a coaching staff to win at the University of Nebraska, a place that hasn't won recently, I'm spending all that money. I'm bringing in the people that need the money. I'm giving extra money out. I don't understand not spending the money.
Do you think that was here's the money. We want you to go spend it on who you want.
Mm-hmm.
And there may have been a no from a couple of people. And if that was the top dollar, it was like, okay, well, we're giving you this amount of money for A, B, and
C. I think one person for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I don't believe that. I believe, just based off what we've seen from Matt Rule over the course of his career before this year, is that he likes building young staffs. He likes bringing people in who are new. And so I think he enjoyed having guys who played for him or had coached for him when he was younger. I think he just likes that. So he was fine with spending the amount of money he spent.
Well, let's take a look at some of these guys.
Yeah, sure.
To me, Addison Williams is one of the more intriguing pieces of this puzzle because John Butler was the defensive backs coach.
Yep.
He's now the defensive coordinator. Those two were obviously going to be pretty lockstep.
And they struggled last year.
In that room, and they need to see a major uptick in performance this week. And I gave the hire a C+. Just because I don't think we've got enough from him to make an educated guess of what it's going to be yet, and I think it's going to be easier to grade him after the spring.
Yeah, I think you're about right. He is one of those guys out of all of the ones they hired that I know the least amount about.
Same.
Like some of the other guys, I knew him from when they were a player. I knew the guy for when he coached someplace else. I'd really never heard of this guy before until he got hired. But then I start looking through and see some of the players that he coached and how long he coached. I'd go with that. I think the thing that's incredible about this guy is that they managed to get another guy who at one point in his career was a coordinator. So they have all these guys.
4 on their entire staff.
That's pretty good. I don't think you see that a whole lot.
So that's why I threw the plus
but
in
no
there
ex-coaches, but mostly just coordinator.
That's why I threw the plus in there, too,
Yeah.
is the fact that he's obviously been trusted enough at one point to coordinate an entire defense. I think that knowledge alone is definitely a bonus. We'll get to Marcus Satterfield here.
No.
I gave it a C-.
No, man. Like, seriously?
Yeah.
Because of the money? Because it can't be because of the production.
The whole situation.
Okay, so I'm going to go with production, right? Go look at the tight ends and how guys developed under him.
Okay.
As a tight end, just go tight ends coach, right? So you got guys. Thomas Fidone obviously had injuries and everything else.
Okay, I was going to ask about that.
But Thomas actually ran better routes, I thought, last year. Now, some of the routes they had him run weren't good, and that's on the offensive coordinator for calling a lot of swing passes to a guy who's 6'7".
Who was the offensive coordinator last year?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm talking about the tight ends coach.
Sure.
We're not talking about him as an offensive coordinator,
Right.
as a tight ends coach. Look, I didn't like him when they hired him as the offensive coordinator. I went through and I said, you can't hire a guy who has never been good at something and expect them to come in a situation they've never been in before
And be good.
and be good. It just doesn't work that way.
He's literally being run out of South Carolina as we speak.
But if you look at his tight ends,
Mhm.
I think you can say that he's developed young guys. I think guys have gotten better. So that's all we expect from him is to get his tight ends better. Now,
okay, but do you look at a guy like Carter Nelson who comes in with, and again, it's a
who
freshman.
played wide receiver.
It's a freshman,
He
right?
was a wide receiver.
But is asked to do that because it kind of felt like he was pushed out of the tight end room because they didn't think that he was going to be able to contribute to that room. Is that a Marcus Satterfield thing?
I think that was because of his size. I think that was that decision is made by Matt Rule.
Okay,
That's a Matt Rule decision.
And I agree. And I think his size had a lot to do with it. Obviously, not playing 12-man or 11-man football probably had a lot to do with it as
Right.
well.
Yeah.
But it was just one of those things that, like, it kind of felt a little icky that we weren't letting the guy who was supposed to be coordinating this offense get maybe the crown jewel in his room of that recruiting class, and that rubbed me kind of the wrong way. But I gave it a C- for a few reasons. I also think that giving Marcus Satterfield that first year where he was the quarterback's coach isn't a benefit either, and it kind of feels like he's been put behind the 8 ball since he got here because they never got the Jake Peetz hire that they thought they were going to get.
So we're talking about everything
him as a coach as a whole,
since he first got here.
Yeah,
I was thinking about him just as a tight ends coach.
Okay,
that's what he is, a tight ends coach now.
What grade did you give him? Because you didn't give me an answer.
I think he'd be a B.
Okay,
and then also you look at some of the recruits and some of the work he did with them. I think he did a really good job at a tight end room. So it'd be hard for me. Everything else, I think as an offensive coordinator, he's a D. Right, I'm gonna give him a D because I don't give out Fs. I give him a D. As quarterback coach, I mean, he had an impossible situation.
Yeah.
He had a guy who they didn't even allow practice 2 years prior to that to be his starting quarterback.
And the guy that led the nation in turnovers is the other option.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's hard to blame him for that because in the end of the season, the quarterback position actually was playing halfway decent under him. But just a tight ends coach is what I'll go with.
And I think that's a little bit unfair too because the system they're running also, right? Like
and they had to change everything. They had to go to a former head coach and ask them to teach them how to run the option. I mean, that's all stuff.
This one's going to hurt me.
Okay.
Because we're going to go to Donovan Raiola here. And I gave him a C+. And I almost think that's a little bit unfair because of how banged up that offensive line has been. And, like, I'm a huge Teddy Prohaska guy. I think he's a great kid. I think he and Turner Corcoran have given their all to this program, but that clearly hasn't been enough. And I don't think we've seen development at that position. Now, when you look at the guys that they have, the Gunnar Gatulas, the Sam Sledges, the Grant Brickses of the world, those are all guys that were recruited by Donovan Raiola, but we haven't been able to see them get. So when we're talking about the whole picture of the offensive line coach, the recruiting, the development, all of that, to me, it's a C+ just because I think he inherited a bad situation to some degree, and I don't think anybody maybe could have probably helped this situation unless you're able to get other talent in. But we did see the Ben Scott come in and play well. We did see the Mike Mazuka effect and being able to help run the football and all of that. So it's not completely a C or C-. I think it's a C+, close to a B- because there has been some growth in that area.
He's an A. It's not even close.
It's
an A. The problems they had running the ball had nothing to do with the offensive line.
The scheme.
No, it's the running backs.
Okay.
The running backs missed more holes than Ray Charles playing football. They had so many issues with finding the holes and not going where they're supposed to. Bryce Benhart has become all of a sudden a draftable player. I don't think he's going to get drafted.
I don't either.
But he's close.
Sure.
He's ranked about 300, out of 256, 257. That's pretty close compared to the guy who couldn't even play, who was that bad.
Yeah.
Became actually serviceable. Now, did he get beat occasionally? Yeah. Part of that was the offense not understanding that you got a chip on a guy like Benhart.
Sure,
but I think
the call being there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got the problems with Mazuka having, but they figured out just to put Gatula in there and have him serviceable. That's a great job by the offensive line coach. I give him an A. Most of the problems that Nebraska had last year was not on the offensive line. Most of the problems they had were a quarterback who at times was extremely shaky in understanding both protection and how to get rid of the ball, and running backs that didn't know where they were going. I put most of it on Dylan Raiola, who I think last year, even though he put up decent numbers, Dylan Raiola had a lot of struggles that you don't want to talk about because he's a 5-star and everything. He's got to get much better. He's got to get in better shape.
He's a 5-star, but he's a freshman.
I don't care.
Okay.
I understand. You still could criticize the mistakes he made and the problems that he caused for the offensive line. Now, it helped. Dana comes in, gets things going faster, makes him get rid of the ball faster. It makes everybody look better. But I think a big problem, especially in the middle of the year when maybe he had an ankle, I don't know. But in the middle of the year, that was on Dylan more than it was on the offensive line.
Yeah, and it's gonna, like I said he's a freshman in the sense of that's something you're assuming is going to get better this year.
You hope, but he's got to make that commitment to get in better shape. He can't be, look, as fat guys, I can look and say that dude needs to get in better shape.
Put on the freshman 20 real quick.
Too doughy. Well, he was like that in high school.
Yeah.
He had it. It hasn't gotten better. So this offseason, and it's great that he goes to basketball games and he's hanging out. He needs to be in the gym.
Yep.
He needs to be losing that weight. He needs to go on some sort of keto or something. He needs to get his body right to be able to be ready for next year.
Which is really surprising because his little brother, every time he's on campus, he's in the weight room.
Yeah.
Like, and it's weird that they don't seem to have that correlation between each other. Let's move on to linebackers coach. This is a guy that I'm very high. I love.
Favorite
I
coach.
love Rob Dvorak. I think he's huge. I thought there was a legit chance that if Tony White did move on after the season, he was going to be the guy that gave the reins of the defense to. I would not have hated that.
Yeah.
But I think they've got an absolute gem in a linebacker coach.
I'm with you.
I gave him a B+.
Yeah, I think Rob Dvorak is an A. If you look at what Bullock did and the way he played,
I honestly almost gave him an A just based on John Bullock.
Yeah, John Bullock, what he did now, big part of John Bullock is getting dedicated, going into that weight room and losing his neck.
Yeah.
I mean, the kid lost his neck. He just got from head straight to shoulders.
Yeah.
He's so big in there.
He may have squatted a little bit.
Yeah, he did a little bit of that, little neck shrugs, shoulder shrugs too. But the good thing about Dvorak is you don't ever talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to.
That's a great thing.
Because his guys do their job. When the defensive backs were struggling, when you had some injuries and some issues on the defensive line, linebackers were solid. The linebackers were solid pretty much the whole year, and that's because of Dvorak.
Rob Dvorak is the reason that I looked at the loss of Tony White and Porchop and said, we might be okay on the front seven with Rob Dvorak sticking around to coach the linebackers and getting that whole situation.
And bringing in a guy who coached, at least assistant coached that in the NFL is pretty good.
Yeah, that ain't going to hurt. This is probably the guy I'm least high on in the entire coaching staff, and I've been very vocal about this for a lot of the reasons we talked about. It's EJ Barthel. And a lot of the reasons I was down on the beginning was what I looked at as the mismanagement of A.J. Allen. I think we can all assume by now with A.J. Allen ended up at Florida Atlantic, it may have been an A.J. Allen problem, not necessarily an E.J. Barthel problem.
Right.
But Dante Dowdell was an E.J. Barthel guy, and it felt like he never developed, and he was kind of the same running back when he walked into Nebraska.
That's not true.
You don't think
in
so?
The spring, literally the conversation, everybody watched him in practice, said that he was struggling, and he was the fourth back in the spring. By the second game of the season, he was probably the best back.
Okay, but
so he developed a ton when he got here.
I ask you this then, though.
Yeah.
Do you really think he was the fourth back, or do you think that might have been an inspiration thing?
Well, I don't know. All I know is that in practice, he wasn't hitting holes. He wasn't getting
holes by the time he left,
wasn't doing well. Actually, as long as they were inside the box. So yeah, there are horses for courses,
sure,
and there are backs for tracks.
Okay.
His track is simple. It's 3, 2, 1. Period. It's not 5, 6, 7. And as long as you keep him in those tracks, he's fine.
But he missed a lot.
I think
of open
he did.
holes.
But so did Emmett Johnson.
Sure.
So they all did. They all missed a lot of holes. Because I always go back and I try to watch
Is that
as much.
More all-encompassing on the running back coach then? If it's all of them doing
I think part of it's on EJ. So first of all, I think EJ did develop guys. I think he did make guys better. I would give him a B-, only because you get a new offensive coordinator who comes in and immediately points out the issues that your running backs are having.
Publicly, by the way.
Yes, immediately. Now, Jamarian Parker, I think is going to be a great running back.
Absolutely.
And so I give him a little bit of credit for going out and getting that done. But I know that's a big Jamar Mosey. So I don't know how much that is EJ Barthel, but you still got to sell the running backs coach on the player to come here. I like him. I think he's a tough guy. I don't know what happened during the season at certain points, but Dowdell was really struggling and was, yes, in the doghouse for a number of reasons. And by the time Colorado came around, people were pretty excited about him.
Sure.
And he got a ton of money to go to Kentucky.
There's that too.
Yeah.
Let's go to the wide receivers coach. And I think D'Kel Shorts is an interesting piece for a lot of reasons. Like, he seems well connected. He seems like he's obviously a handshake to Dana Holgorsen and a connection there and a link. So even though he hasn't really had his hands on this program yet or been in the room with that group of guys, I gave him a B- just because I think the correlation with Dana Holgorsen bringing a guy in that can coach the system, that knows the system when he shows up, I think is already an immediate upgrade.
Yeah, I haven't seen him coach here, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think he's the most important coach added to the staff. I think he's the most important. I'm not counting Dana because he was already here last year, but he's most important because,
in a sense, the guys he can bring in or what he can do.
No, so if you look at what he did at Kentucky and how guys played as true freshmen, that's got to be part the coaches, right? The coach that coaches that position has to be able to bring you in, and from the day you get there, whether it is in January or June or July, to get you to be able to catch balls as a freshman is a big accomplishment.
Especially when you're getting a freshman coming in from Cal and you're bringing in a couple guys from Kentucky.
Yeah, but I'm talking about when he was at Kentucky, the guys that he developed there and what he did with them, I believe that shows me that he can be a good coach. I think he's important because the wide receiver room, now Ja'Cory Barney obviously coming back, but the wide receiver room has more questions to me than any other room.
Because how many guys left?
Because how many guys left, and because the way things went last year. I know Jamal Banks can play. I know he can. Part of that, again, was on the quarterback. And I know Isaiah Neyor is a draft pick. Why didn't that work then? Was that just the wide receivers coach? Was that just the system? Was that what? So I question it. That's the biggest question I have going into the season. Can the wide receivers be what they need to be to make Donovan Raiola look like a 5-star?
Well, and there's been a pretty big issue with this program getting guys to play early or be ready to play early as a whole anyway. And I don't think it mattered who Ja'Cory Barney's coach or offensive coordinator was. He was
going to play.
He clearly has got the skill set to get out on the field. Gut reaction. What you just said, gut reaction. Do you think it was the wide receiver coach? Do you think it's the system? Do you think it's a combination of everything?
I think it was a part, the play calling. I also believe that for whatever reason, and maybe this is on the coaches, Dylan thought, I can't make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And so he didn't throw the ball into some tight windows where he should have thrown them. In this level in the Big Ten, a guy covered with between the ball and the guy, that's a throw you have to make.
Yeah.
You have to make that throw. And by the way, if
multiple
you look
times a game.
And if you look towards the end of the season, he made that throw in the bowl game. Mm-hmm. He made that throw towards the end of the season a few times.
He made it like 6 times against Northern Iowa. And it's a lot easier to play with a little more house money in that situation.
He didn't, plus most of the middle of the season, he wouldn't take that throw.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why Jalen Lloyd left is because we all watched Jalen Lloyd running down the middle of the field open enough, and he didn't make that throw. And so I don't know if it was just apprehension or if it was coaches saying, don't make mistakes, but he missed a lot of throws out there.
Yeah, or just didn't pull the trigger.
Didn't pull it through. Well, that's what I'm saying. He missed it by not seeing it or not throwing it.
Sure.
Especially on crossing routes.
I'm incredibly excited, despite what Nebraska's website says about who the special teams coordinator
no doubt,
is. I loved Mike Eckler when he was here the first time. Yep. I've loved what he did at Tennessee. I think this is an absolute home run.
Yeah, doing the job I do with the Jet Award, I follow every single Monday.
Yeah.
Every single Monday, I go through and look at all the people who return kicks, either for a touchdown or long returns, so I can write them all down so I have them on a chart.
Yeah.
And Tennessee, both this year and last year, they had D. Williams last year, were constantly successful. And here's the cool thing about the team this past year in 2024. They had 3 guys that were good at it.
Yeah.
It wasn't one dynamic player. They had 3 different guys. One guy's name is Squirrel, by the way. They had 3 guys who all were successful returning punts and kicks. So that's the coaching. That's coaching staff.
Yep. I mean, yeah, because you don't get that lucky hitting that many.
No, you don't. I mean, yeah.
John Butler, I'm interested to get your thoughts on this. I gave him a C+ just because of the one season we have of him as a defensive coordinator isn't the most glowing review that you're going to get, but it is a smaller sample size, and obviously you being a former Penn State fan, can appreciate that.
That was a tough time. They only had 45 guys on the roster.
I thought it was 38. Okay,
45 guys on the roster.
Yeah,
active roster.
I gave him a C+.
Yeah.
But it's on a sliding scale. I think it can go much higher.
Yeah, he's one that I think if it was up to me, and I don't know who he interviewed or who he had a chance to hire, I think I would have tried to upgrade at that position.
You mean Matt Rule?
Yeah, Matt Rule upgrading at the DC position. I think I would have tried to do that. I think the secondary, and I know John Butler was in a tough situation because you lose your secondary coach last kind of minute, right? And so maybe that is, but a lot of those guys didn't play with the passion they played the year before. Tommy Hill, all of a sudden wasn't into it. It was a different guy. And there's a lot of struggles. And part of that you have to say is obviously the players, but a big part of that is the coach, right?
Sure.
It's their assistant coach. And so that bothers me. I don't know. I think there's a reason why certain places didn't offer him the DC and why he had to leave and come here and be what he was, the defensive backs coach. So
that situation felt way too similar to the Marcus Satterfield situation for me. I think John Butler can be a good DC, and I'm still waiting to cast my thoughts on that after this season. But to me, it was just like, ooh, is Matt Rule having a problem getting guys to come here to coach for him? Doesn't feel like that, but it's kind of starting.
Well, spend the extra money that he has left over
from
his staff allotment and spend it and get somebody in there. I'm not saying that Butler won't be good. I'm just saying that's one I would have spent a lot of money on.
Yeah.
If it was me.
It's a pretty important piece. I say that, but we just got to talk about the fact that there's 3 other guys that have had that responsibility on different teams too.
True. That is very true.
Including Matt Rule. So it could be why they didn't want to spend the money. They did spend some money on an offensive coordinator.
Yes.
But they didn't need to spend a whole lot because he's still getting paid from somewhere else.
That is right.
I gave Daniel Holgorsen an A-. I think just the name recognition as a whole, what we saw, it felt like he fixed the running game in 10 days. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty big accomplishment. I gave it an A-.
Yeah, I was a fan of Dana before he came here. I like certain things about what he does and what they do. I love the fact that their X receiver is going to be getting the ball, and he knows it. I love the way they work the tight end by getting them in motion and getting them open, and I love throwing the ball out of the backfield. So those 3 things I knew would get better when he got here, and you saw them get better. I love the way he runs his scheme. I like the idea also that he's going to get the play in quickly, and he's going to make Dylan make decisions quickly.
It was such a breath of fresh air to see them use motion and then develop a play out of it
Yeah.
later in the season. We'll go to the head coach. I gave it a C when he got hired.
Mhm.
I gave Matt Rule a B- because I think he is building it the right way. I think there was a pretty big learning curve on how things need to be done to work here, and I think I don't think anybody coming from the outside in could appreciate how much of a fishbowl it is. So I give it a B-.
I thought he was a B when he was hired. I thought it was a good hire based off of what Nebraska needed to do to get back. The biggest problem is that his time management and the way he handles situations, his situational awareness is concerning to me at times. And I've seen a lot of coaches like this. Hell, Jim Moore coached for the Saints and had a lot of problem with situational awareness, then went to Indy and still did.
This was Les Miles' biggest issue his entire career.
Kurt Ferentz had the issue, and they fixed it by bringing somebody in to take care of that part for him. So I believe it can be fixed. Other than that, I love his attitude. I love how he handles players. I think he understands the roster building that's needed now with the 105. My biggest concern is, it's for whatever reason, I don't think he makes good decisions late in games.
And it's been his biggest struggle even when he was at Temple and Baylor. The coaching staff as a whole, I gave it a C+ just because I think there are too many unknowns, and I think it's still kind of a wait and see situation.
Yeah, it could be a C+ or a B- because we don't know what these guys are going to do here.
Yeah.
By the end of the season, you'll know, but it comes down to three positions. Though. It comes down to offensive and defensive and special teams coordinators.
Agreed.
If you make good hires there, I think you can make it up everywhere else.
I meant to ask you, any concern? We talked about Dana Holgorsen. Any concern for you about what happened at Houston, the way it ended, or
No.
is that just
No, I think he was
oranges?
tired. I think he needed to move on. I think Houston's a very tough place.
Agreed. Especially now that they're in the Big 12.
Yeah, and I always push for them to be in the Big 12 because they're in I think the third or fourth largest county. Montgomery County is one of the largest counties in the country. There's so much talent.
I thought you were going to say Texas. I was like, I think it's number 1.
No, the county. Just I think Maricopa is bigger outside of Phoenix, but you have so much talent there that I always thought they could fit in being a Division I school or being a Power 4 school or a Power 5 school. But I look at it now, and they have a lot of dysfunction in that university, and so I don't know how that's going to work. One of my favorite coaches in the world is there, and Willie Fritz, so I hope it works out well for him.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good landing spot for him, though, because I think him taking over the system that Dana had and just kind of doing what he does works well. Hey, if you missed us grading the Nebraska coaching staff, check it out at soundcloud.com/afterhours1620. It was brought to you by our friends at Allo Fiber. Allo goes beyond internet. I just got Allo Fiber in my house a couple of months ago. I saw an immediate impact. Our internet speeds jumped through the roof. We don't have any lagging on our while we're streaming or while we're gaming, and they have 24/7 customer service support from live, real people. Check out allofiber.com for more details today. The NFL draft is up in just a couple of months, and Michael Severe is in, so we're obviously going to talk about it. We come back at 1620 The Zone. 6:43 on a Wednesday night here on 1620 The Zone, brought to you by our friends at Bellevue University. Download the BU Bruins app to keep up to date on all the championship action happening on Bellevue's campus. Huh?
This is not a morning show. Why are you giving the time?
Because it's nighttime. People are
No,
out driving.
morning show you give the time.
What if-
People need to get places.
What if people are going to work and they're
You
working?
don't
late?
say the time at nighttime.
I've been doing this for 5 years.
Yeah, I'm
now
gonna tell you
say
right now, you
something?
shouldn't take the time. Don't say the time.
Six-
It's only in the morning.
6:40.
Marvin was a friend of mine. He's working on the night shift.
It's 6:43 p.m. in case anybody is wondering. Standard Central Time. That is the voice of Michael Severe. I'm Jimmy Allen. Dan Campion was that other angelic voice you just heard a minute ago. The NFL draft is just a few months away, and the top 5 is really intriguing to me. And the quarterback debate is always going to be intriguing in the NFL draft. In your opinion, because you were a draft expert, a guru, some would refer to you
Not
as.
so much anymore.
Do you think the Titans, for what they need a lot,
Oh yeah, sure.
are better off drafting Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, or a quarterback? Because
No, I
obviously the Will Levis situation is not going great.
What I would do if I was them, and this is something I think that most people should start looking at. Look at the Eagles. Hell, look at the Niners.
Yeah.
Build those lines.
They're good.
Build the lines. Detroit even. I mean, their offensive line at one point before some injuries was the best in the league. So I believe you're building on the lines. If you can get somebody as special as I know Abdul Carter is,
he's
seeing every
probably
snap
the
of
best overall
pretty
player.
much his career, I'm drafting him. And then I'm thinking about next year and what the quarterback room will be like next year. And I think it's going to be a much better class. This class reminds me of 2011.
Ooh, okay.
Around then. So you had Cam Newton, who was obviously really good.
And you had a couple of
And then after that, you had a bunch of guys. I was like, I don't believe that guy. I don't think Jake Locker is an NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't believe
Who
that
went in
these
the first
guys.
round, by
I
the
don't
way.
believe Ponder is an NFL quarterback. And those they got pushed off. They all got pushed up into the top 11 because of the fact that people want quarterbacks. But I think we learned something. And so you go out and get the best player you can go get, and that's Abdul Carter. If there's somebody in the second round, if you have the chance to get a quarterback you believe you can develop, now in 2025, because it's different than it used to be, I think you can win with a second, third, or fourth round quarterback. You used to could not.
I agree with that.
You could not. What happened with Russell Wilson when he went, that was an anomaly. That didn't happen. What happened with Tom Brady was more of an anomaly. It was usually always first round guys.
Yeah.
It was first round guys, and that's how now, because of system, because those guys have been with quarterback coaches since they were 8, they're different than they used to be.
Right.
And so I think you can wait and maybe take one this year, or just say, screw it, I'm going to build my defensive and offensive lines in this draft with not just the first pick in the first round. Remember, it's the first pick in every round.
Right.
And the second round, it allows you to be able to get back to your board, change everything over, and then after the third round, do the exact same thing and redo your whole board overnight. It's different than it used to be. Build your lines, pass on a quarterback, because I don't believe that either one of these two guys, who people consider the top 2, are real game changers.
Cam Ward's going to make you pay for that. He's telling people.
I don't care. I've watched Cam Ward be a turnover machine.
Yeah.
And I know he didn't turn it over as much last year that he did in the years previous to that. He still had a ton of turnover-worthy plays. And turnover-worthy plays will come and bite you on the ass eventually.
I think the final count, I was watching a show yesterday, I think it was either 8 or 9 dropped interceptions, passes that could have been picked
and
up.
that's a turnover-worthy play. That's easy to say.
Yeah.
But there's times where they'll judge you just throwing the ball into coverage in a chance where it probably should have been the defensive back, but he wasn't paying attention or whatever else.
Right.
He has always been that
in the
way.
NFL, it'll be a pick.
He's a turnover machine.
Is Shedeur Sanders for you the most intriguing person, personality in this entire draft?
It's Travis Hunter only because we've had not seen this.
Yeah.
I always go back to, when I was coming up, there was always guys who occasionally would go over, right? Champ Bailey would occasionally come over to offense and play a little bit. And so many
Nobody's
guys did
playing
that.
113 snaps.
Yeah, it wasn't like that. The thing about it is, it's not as much the snaps, is that I believe that he is a top 5 wide receiver in this draft. And I think he's a top 3 corner in this draft. The fact that you have to make that decision as a team is incredible.
Yeah.
And talk about his girlfriend or whatever else. I think he's a really good kid.
Yeah.
He's just a really,
for anybody that's
been
listening to
through.
his podcast, it's kind of hard to think that there's something like there's not a
Kid was
genuine
basically
person.
homeless.
Yeah.
He was basically homeless.
Yeah.
His dad was in prison. His mom pulled him out of one of the worst situations he could be in. He had to go live for a little while with Deion Sanders. I mean, this is a guy who had some rough times.
Yeah.
So you say whatever you want about him. I think he's a good kid. And I think he's going to be a great player. He's intriguing only because I don't know what you do with him.
There's no way an NFL franchise looks at him and says, we're going to let you play both sides.
No,
right? Especially with where he's going to be
You have
drafted.
too many good players at other positions.
Yeah, agreed.
So you have to think, what's the most valuable one? Is it corner or is it wide receiver? Technically, it's wide receiver because scoring points wins games.
Yep.
On the other hand, if you can really get a shutdown corner who can shut down one side of the field, that still is valuable. And we've seen that. We saw Denver do it.
Yeah,
we saw Denver do it with a team that no one really – I thought maybe they could get close to the playoffs. They exceeded everyone's expectation.
Without
a big
doubt.
part of that was being able to have Patrick Surtain over there shutting down stuff. So I would play him at wide receiver personally, but I can understand a coach saying corner.
So that's going to be the interesting part about it, though, right? Is like, okay, you could go put him at wide receiver, but who's throwing him the football? And if it's Will Levis, do you really risk a year of development where he could be actually making a difference and getting meaningful reps at corner too? And I think that's a conversation if Tennessee chooses to go with him number one overall that you probably have to have before you take him.
Yeah, if he's going to play corner, then there's no problem getting him snaps at wide receiver. That's been done enough. You know, Deion obviously did it. That you can do, but he can't be a wide receiver and get snaps at corner.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
The only time that ever happens is when you have so many injuries that you got to play. Like the Patriots had to do it. The Patriots had to do it. So
7 Nebraska players eligible to be drafted this year. Tommy Hill, Ty Robinson, Thomas Fidone, Turner Corcoran, Isaiah Nair, MJ Sherman, Micah Mazuka, and Tyreek Johnson.
And Brian Bushini.
Excuse me, yes.
Yep.
So 8. How many of those guys get drafted in your opinion?
I think it's a lock that they get 3. The fourth one is going to be close. And I think that fourth one would be late in the 7th round. But there is a chance if somebody falls in love with somebody that they get 5. Now, remember, it hasn't been – so 2011 is the last time they had more than 4.
Right.
It's a long time. Also, the last time they had a first rounder. They're obviously not going to have that.
No.
Ty Robinson, who many people consider to be the best player out of them, I think Ty goes second. I still believe Thomas Fidone goes first. I think Thomas Fidone is going to go to the combine, and they're going to see that this guy's got arms like a pterodactyl.
Right.
The fact that I think he's going to run a good enough time. He's not going to run a great 10, but he's going to run a good 40. He's going to run, I'm going to guess 4.67, 4.68 at that height and that weight.
Elite. Yeah.
It's elite. I think he'll jump well. He'll do everything well. I think he'll catch the ball fine.
You don't think the injuries will scare people off?
So the biggest thing for him at the combine is the medicals, which is going to take him a full day, maybe even an extra day, and then the interviews too.
That's what Adrian said when he was into. He kind of walked us through that entire process about how people just walk up and grab your bicep and move your muscles for you.
We lost a kid coming to Marcus Jones, who plays for the Patriots. He was all set to come to he won the Jet Award. He was coming, and Indianapolis called and said, hey, you need to go back. People want you retested. So he had to go back to Indianapolis and go through the whole testing process again, checking for old injuries because of that. So, yeah, they're all over you, and it's a full day, and it's going to be tough for him. But I think – so the ACL's been repaired now so much better than it was when I was coming up, when I had mine done.
Right.
I think he'll be fine that way. But he'll drop, and I mean, the middle of the 4th round is not a great spot, but it's a great tight end draft.
You said most likely 4.
I said most likely 4.
So if
I said 3 for sure, 4 is the
who are the other 2 then?
I think Ty Robinson goes. I think Nair's going to go.
Okay.
And I'm thinking this. I think Tommy Hill, as long as he interviews well at the combine, forget medical and everything else. He's got to tell them why when they watch tape, there were times where he was disinterested.
Yeah.
He's got to answer that question. When he played well,
noticeably too.
Why did you play so well when you were interested? And why did you play like you did when you weren't interested? And what was wrong with you? So he's got to answer those questions. If he answers those questions, I think he's the 4th guy. I think he goes in the 7th.
Because there were times in his career where he looked like a first-round draft pick.
Yes.
And there were times in his career where he looked like he'd never tackled another human being.
Yeah. Remember, this is
That's
a guy
a really big jump.
Who almost left the team at one point, right? Came back, moped, complained, then became a really good starter. Then all of a sudden ended up on some mock drafts to go like 30th and 31st, which is one of the worst things to happen for a guy like that, I think.
Sure.
And he kind of got nervous about getting hurt and hurting his draft position and everything else. It was in his head. He was in his own head. He's got to explain why he was in his own head. But I think he's because of his physical makeup and the potential, I think he goes.
I was talking to Tierre Green one time, and he'd mentioned that after that Nevada game in 2007, that he's like, I came back to my dorm room and I was the number 6 safety on ESPN's draft board that next day. He goes, that messed with my mind more than anything that I dealt with in my entire college career. So, I mean, it's crazy because you start thinking like, hey, well, number 6 safety of the draft makes X amount of dollars, and things like that. So
he should have been a running back anyway. He should have been a running back anyway.
His thought also, by the way.
He should have been a running back.
He had very strong opinions about that. Hey, that was our thoughts on the NFL draft coming up, which Huskers are going to be taking. If you missed it, check it out at soundcloud.com/afterhours1620. You can also hear Michael Severe cough into a microphone there.
Sorry about that. I hit the wrong button.
I saw. It was brought to you by Controlled Comfort Heating and Air. You need to get the maintenance done on your HVAC unit so you're not hanging out with Jack Frost in your living room this winter. Head over to ControlledComfort.com and take a look at your furnace and your AC unit to make sure it's ready for the summer months as well. Check out ControlledComfort.com tonight. We'll be finding out what's trending on social media when we come back on 1620 The Zone. The workday's over. You're probably starving. You could fix that problem right now by stopping at one of the 10 great Pepper Jacks locations throughout the Omaha area tonight. Stop by, grab my personal favorite. It's a steak rice bowl with onions, mushrooms, and green peppers over the top of it. Throw some black olives, shredded cheese into the mix. Get some mild salsa to give it that kick and some spicy ranch to top it off. It's so good, it should be illegal to sell. It's Pepper Jack's Grill, 10 great locations in the Omaha area. Stop by and grab dinner tonight. Wrapping up the first hour of the After Hours Lounge here at 1620 The Zone, brought to you by Bellevue University. Head over to bellevue.edu. Register for classes and become a Bruin tonight. It's 6:58 p.m.
Okay.
on a Wednesday night.
It's nighttime.
Dan, it is time for the social media soundbite. What do you got for us tonight?
We've got a fun little quote that leads into the news of the day.
Okay.
Turns out you actually have to turn on the pot that the audio
that
is
helps.
playing from. That classic coach speak that we just heard was one Mr. Luke Fickle. And congratulations to you, sir, because your contract has been extended through the year 2032.
He is recruiting well, and he is returning a lot of players. His TARP is one of the best in the country.
Who is Luke Fickle's agent?
I don't know, but
Because whoever that is, they deserve.
Look how they're
they deserve a
recruiting.
raise.
They are recruiting at a really good level, and they're excited about that. And like I said, when you want to judge how good a team's going to be the next year, look at their TARP. That's why I had Indiana at 8 wins. Look at the TARP. Look how many worth of transfers and people they have coming back. They have a lot of talent. Believe it or not.
That there are a lot of people that have him on the hottest seat in the country.
Put him on the hot seat. Put him on the hot seat deep. Bet the over.
Okay.
Bet they're over. I believe it's only 5.5. Right?
I think it was 4.5 last time.
Yeah, bet they're way over. Bet the escalator.
No part of you is worried about how it went in Columbus.
No.
The lack of identity that offense has had for 2 years.
No, I believe that they needed to make a change. He made a mistake.
Yeah.
He made a mistake. He made a misjudgment. It's happened before. I believe they've got too much talent and too many returning guys to not be good.
I think they miss a bowl game again. And I think it's very weird to give him that extension this season, though.
I think because they know they're going to be good next year, and they wanted to get it out of the way.
Probably better be. You're probably more than your head coach losing his job after this extension, right? I mean, if they,
you don't want to have to pay.
Yeah,
you don't want to pay. Give somebody money for something they're not earning.
Dan Campion tell me we got to get to buy or sell. So if you missed the social media soundbite tonight, want to find out which Big Ten coach just got an extension, check it out at SoundCloud.com/After Hours. 1620 is brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. If your business needs help with social media marketing, website design, or online advertising, pixelfiremarketing.com is here to help. Their social media experts will ignite your social media presence, entice your ideal client, and engage your brand online. Check out pixelfiremarketing.com for more information. Michael Severe tells us if Cooper Kupp can make a Super Bowl winner next year. Hey, everybody, it's Jimmy Allen here for AX Plumbing. I've been telling you for over a year now that if you've been having plumbing problems, a locally owned plumber like AX Plumbing is second to none. Nick and his crew can come out and take care of several issues in your house. They replaced a wax ring underneath the toilet for me. They've got my drain snaked all the way out to my street, so I'm not going to worry about that backing up anymore. They can help you out with all of that if you're a new homeowner and have some big plumbing problems. There's also financing available at axpservice.com. Check them out tonight. Top of the second hour here on 1620 The Zone, brought to you by Pyramid Contractors. Over a decade of being the number one roofer in Omaha. Check out pyramidroof.com to book a free estimate today. It's time for Buy or Sell, where Disco Danny Dynamite grabs the microphone and asks us some questions.
Whee!
Yes, I do. Me and my beard mate, Cooper Kupp, we're both on the market. He's 31 years old. Hey, look at that. So am I. Played his entire career for the Rams. Buy or sell that he can still be the guy that puts a team into the discussion of being a real contender.
Are you asking me if he can be a 1?
Yes.
No, buy or sell. No.
Can he be a guy that helps as a number 2 put a team that's a contender over the top to win a Super Bowl?
I think he can be a number 2, catch the ball on third down and get you some touchdowns. I just don't believe he can be a number 1 anymore. I think he's lost a step. Obviously, all the injuries he's had over the years are hard.
That's the toughest part for me too.
Yeah, I mean, it was his ability to come out of the break the way he did that made him such a different maker. And you lose one step off of that, it's a different story.
I was really surprised that the Rams were choosing to let him go though, because I thought he was a really good, obviously his paid what he was going to garner for pay was a big deterrent for them bringing him back. But I thought him and Puka Nacua and putting Cooper Kupp as the number 2, it made a whole lot of sense, especially if you're going to run it back with Stafford for one more year.
I don't believe they have money issues. I know at one point last year they were the lowest salary capped defense in all of professional football. So they had money.
Yeah, and it felt like that was a perfect 1-2 combo, and Stafford obviously loves him.
Yeah, must be just getting out of it a year early. You know, the Patriot way.
Yeah.
You let him go a year earlier than you need to.
Save yourself some money. Get a discount on the back end.
Exactly.
Dan?
Yeah, the strangest thing with Cooper Kupp is that
you've accomplished more in the same time that he is?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm close to a triple crown.
There you go.
I have a dream every night that I, hold it up and go, yeah, look at me. I did it. I'm not slow. But no, he's a glue guy in their locker room.
Yeah.
Every single guy
has
never had a negative thing to say about Cooper Kupp,
and Puka gets hurt a lot too. So that's another thing you need to consider. Do you keep him only because you know Puka's going to get hurt at some time during a season? Depends on how bad it's going to be.
Moving on, the NFL has increased the salary cap to $22 million. Oh, by $22 million.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Excuse me.
Yes.
This places the salary cap to $281.5 million.
Holy moly.
This is clearly a response to the increasing raise of the quarterback market. Buy or sell that this was the right move by the league.
This is the only move, right? I mean,
you have to. Yeah. You have to raise it because they have a contract with 51.49, and based off of the amount of money you make television-wise, that much money has to go into the players, and you base the salary cap off of that.
Yeah, and you had to move it just because the way the quarterback market has dictated the market move, too. Mm-hmm. I think it'd be more interesting if they moved it down to $22 million. I think there may be some upset players in the players' union.
Yeah, and literally you can't do it. There's a certain amount you have to spend based off of how much money they're bringing in, and when you add the money they're getting from Amazon, the Netflix stuff that they're going to be getting, you add all that money in, you just have to raise it.
Yeah, we were having this discussion last year when they made the announcement about Netflix doing the Christmas Day games, and I went, "Oh, this is." I said, "We're going to see the salary cap go up next year then, because it's another partner that they've added to the equation."
Yep.
Dan?
24/7 has listed their top 5 coaches facing the most pressure in 2025.
One of this is going to make you laugh after today's news.
They are Brent Venables, Mike Gundy, Mike Norvell, the aforementioned Luke Fickell, and Brian Kelly. Buy or sell that these are the top 5 hottest seats in the country.
Well, you sell now.
3 out of those 5. I think 3 of those 5. Norvell, because you can't have another season, obviously, like they had last year.
Yeah.
But he can fall back on 2 years ago what he did. I don't think Kelly is in trouble.
No.
I just don't. I think the amount of money he's getting paid.
And the offense is fun. It puts butts in the seats.
I think it's fine.
You won a Heisman Trophy already also.
But everybody else, I mean, Venables went there on the hot seat.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the fans, even though it was kind of cool to bring back your defensive coordinator, didn't necessarily think that he could be a head coach. And that hurt him at the beginning. And then the seasons he's had, they were already writing articles in the papers about the hot seat he's on. So I definitely think he's on the hot seat.
I think it's the hottest seat in the country.
Yeah, I think so too. Or I guess, imagine if Norvell started off like 1-5.
But you don't think that's going to happen.
Or 1-4. I got to look at their schedule.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would happen last year.
Sure. I would truly be amazed. They've made some moves on the coaching staff, obviously, that I think are going to help as well.
Sure.
The Mike Gundy thing is really interesting, though, right?
Yeah, I was surprised he came back. I thought he was done. I thought he
wanted to leave.
I thought he was done. I thought they were done with him. He's brought them to the heights they've never been before. I understand that. But I thought
it felt like it's run its course.
I thought it was over.
Yeah. I just wonder if you're Oklahoma State, if you're wondering, if you can improve that situation. That could be the fear, right? Like, well, can we get somebody better than him to come into the?
I always believe you can.
I do too. But
especially
that's
when
a
you
real
have
fear for
a lot of cash.
Yeah,
you have a lot of
Oh,
cash.
does Oklahoma State have a lot?
They
of money
have a
these
lot
days?
of cash. Boone left them some money.
Thanks, T.
So yeah, I think they'll be fine. Every time someone says to me, "But who can you get?" Anybody.
Yeah,
basically anybody. If you have enough money, you can go get almost anybody.
Yeah, but like an improvement. Like I like the whole if Scott Frost can't turn around Nebraska, nobody can think like.
I never believed that kind of stuff.
Blew my mind. It's like I
never believe those things.
200 of these jobs out there, and everybody wants one.
Yes.
Yeah. I think those two guys specifically, Mike Gundy and Brent Venables, have got to win and win early to keep their job.
Yeah, Florida State's not going to. They play East Texas A&M in week 2, Kent State in week 3. And they go to Virginia. They start with Alabama. So say they get blown out by Alabama and they drop Virginia, Miami, Pittsburgh. I don't know.
Yeah,
the schedule's too easy to be. They better win 8 games with the schedule. It's pretty easy.
Speaking of hot seats, though, Florida State wins that first game. Things are gonna get real.
Well, they'll
hairy
be talking
in
a lot.
Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, they'll be talking a lot. Yeah.
Dan?
Yeah, Paul Feinbaum will be on TV the next day.
He always is. It's part of his job.
Mac Brown is 73
Good call,
years
Dan.
old, and he claims, "I've had enough," when telling ESPN that he has made peace with his departure from North Carolina. Bill Belichick, who is 72, replaces Brown. Brown said he will likely return to TV or do podcasting. Buy or sell that we have seen the last of Mac Brown in college football coaching.
Okay. I said we'd never see him again after he left Texas, and I was wrong about that. But I think this is it. I mean, 73, there's absolutely no way he comes back.
There's no reason for him to come back.
There's no reason for him to come back to North Carolina.
Although I thought he just wanted to go out with a better record. He didn't want to leave the team with the way they left the team. I think he just wanted to be better. So he wants to walk away and go, I got 8 wins or whatever. I think that's the only reason he wanted to come back.
What's your thoughts on the Belichick situation?
I
Not
love
that he's dating a 24-year-old, but that he's coming back.
In terms of the coaching part of it, he's going to be the best coach in every game he coaches. He's going to be able to outcoach every coach he coaches. Can they recruit? Can they bring in enough guys who are college guys to be on the staff to handle college guys and not handle NFL guys? I don't know. He's going to teach those guys. Those guys are going to leave there so much better players than they did when they arrived. Will they win in the ACC? I think there's a good chance in a couple of years they get to 9 wins.
I think it's gonna be a dumpster fire, man. I don't think he wants to be there, and for a coach that's already that curmudgeon.
You don't think he wants to be there? Why did he go visit every major high school in the state?
Because he wants to leave a spot where his son is the guaranteed next head coach.
Well, you got to win.
You got to put the work at.
You got to win to do that. There's only way that your son's going to be the head coach is if you win. You're not going to lose, and your son's going to be the head coach.
That grind at 73, that's a lot to ask.
No, the grind is the 24-year-old. The grind coaching isn't the grind. It's because you don't recruit the way you used to. You're not traveling you're not going as many home visits and doing that kind of thing anymore. I mean, really, can I pay this guy? Yes. Can I get you in the NFL? You can say, I can get you in the NFL. I can teach you how to be an NFL player. That's what he's got to do. He's got to find a quarterback. You find a quarterback with his scheme on defense and his son's scheme on defense because his son coached pretty well at Washington. I would give him a shot. I think he wins 9 games within the first 2 years.
Dan?
Turkey Al-Sheikh has been very busy. He booked Canelo Alvarez to a 4-fight deal, including the September matchup against our own Bud Crawford in Las Vegas. Buy or sell boxing is set to hit a fever pitch over the next year.
I think it is. I think we're going to see an absolute explosion in the sport. They've got a ton of young talent and a bunch of hungry guys and a ton of money that's going to be paid for guys not to care about the 0 next to their name. I think what Riyadh season is doing is going to take boxing to a level that we haven't seen it maybe 40 years.
It's done. The sport's done.
Really? We're opposite on this? Okay.
You can't do what they do. You can't eliminate me from watching. I'm a boxing fan. I was watching Norton and Holmes fight from my house in 1978 for the vacant title. I'm a boxing fan, and you pushed me away.
I said, kids, look up who Norton Holmes was.
Well, I was living in Easton, Pennsylvania, his hometown at the time, the Easton Assassin. I'm telling you that if I can't watch boxing, if I am not watching boxing, you're losing people.
Okay, so I have to ask, why can't you watch boxing?
Where am I watching it? Where am I watching it?
Pay-per-view.
Am I watching it on HBO? Is it I'm watching it on Showtime where I have to pay a large amount of money every time I watch? I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it. There's no way. I'll follow it on Twitter to see who won. But the young generation isn't going to watch this. How they're not going to get on pay-per-view and watch this.
So here's why I disagree with that statement. When you have guys that understand the game with inside the game and use social media to garner attention to themselves and promote themselves, the best that we've seen since Floyd Mayweather, in my opinion. When you have guys like Teofimo Lopez that has a following just on social media, despite not being nothing to do with what he does in the ring. Oh, and by the way, he's incredible in there as well. And you've got
Is he American?
No,
he's not going to be a big star.
Hold on. But you also have guys like Boots Ennis. And
who's your American heavyweight?
Well, that's something you got to figure out.
That's your problem. You said 40 years.
Yeah, but hold on. That's a great point. But this is why I think that is. I think you're getting all of these other weight classes to gain relevancy, and that's something we haven't seen in boxing. To your point, it's always been about the heavyweights. If you can get the guys,
the Four Kings were huge through the 80s and 90s, and I'm fine with that. I understand that. But you had guys who were Americans for the most part.
Right.
You had one of the most famous Olympians of all time as your major guy in Sugar Ray. Tommy Hearns was, in terms of the Midwest, was so well known. Even guys who were foreign, like Roberto Duran, were legends, even when they were young.
But I mean, look at Tyson Fury. He's not American. He's the biggest draw in boxing right now.
Drawing, how many numbers are they getting compared to, say, MMA, where I can watch it for free a lot of times?
Sure.
How much? What's the numbers like? They're not even close.
From a drawing standpoint,
for this country, in this country, not worldwide, in this country.
Because the last Tyson Fury fight worldwide outdrew every UFC pay-per-view for the year put together.
Well, if you're counting like putting a fight on Netflix too, is going to do it too.
Sure.
So, but
I think that's going to be like, I think the Jake Paul thing was an attempt to see if that would work.
And it didn't. By the way,
it didn't. Yeah,
and it didn't work.
But
yeah,
Netflix is making a major push. I think Prime, with the success they've had with football, is also going to jump into that arena, because
they better give me some free boxing.
Because you're not spending this kind of money like Turki Al-Sheikh is, and Dan and I can attest that their first U.S. based fight didn't go great. By the way, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
To not invest behind the scenes and make sure that it's an obtainable product as well, and I think that we're going to see an attempt there as well.
I think that time passed them by. They let UFC kind of pass them by in many ways. UFC, getting together with WWE, which allowed to put a lot more money in everybody's pockets to allow them to be able to do some things. I just don't. Yeah.
TKO
was my second favorite sport by far as a child. It probably was my second favorite sport till I was in my 40s. And I literally don't watch. I know the names. I follow stuff on social media, but I don't watch anymore. I watch Bud's fights.
I wonder how many of the fighters, we could talk about Bob Arum for an hour and I'll bury him until the day I die. But I wonder how many of the fighters are looking at the platform that Jake Paul is presenting.
Yeah.
And obviously it's a very one-of-one situation right now.
Because of what he did social media first.
Exactly.
Right.
But saying, hey, there's couple 100,000 people next to my name on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
How do I become that versus
how do I market it?
How do I become that and not become the guy that got wasted for 6 years by Top Rank Boxing? Because there's a long list of those guys as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that Bud was wasted. I mean, he fought the guys.
Disagree.
He fought the people he could fight.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up in a situation where he won Boxing of the Year. Somehow, when you win Boxer of the Year and you say that he was wasted, it would be kind of weird because he won Boxer of the Year
from a money drawing standpoint.
Well, he decided to take that deal for the money. In terms of popularity and what he did, he was successful.
I just
again, Boxer of the Year doesn't come. You only get one.
Right.
And he's won it twice now, and once under Top Rank.
Right, but think about everything we just said about the sport itself, though.
Yeah.
Like it's being hidden under a rock.
Well, his fights were actually on HBO.
Yeah.
Showtime, yeah.
But it's like, I think there's an old school promoter standpoint that looks at the Netflix and looks at the pay-per-view model and goes, well, these dollars don't make sense, so we have to do it over here unless people are going to see this. And in that way, I think Bud Crawford was squandered because he was not putting on the platform that would have drawn him the most eyes and didn't have somebody at a 90-year-old man directing his career. So it's understandable that he wasn't thinking about how to promote the Boxer of the Year and the star of the sport and a guy that's basically defined an era in boxing.
Yeah.
And that'll probably be cemented in September if he can win that fight. But I truly believe that you had this megastar that you didn't do enough with. You didn't get the mega fights. He was chasing Spence and Carlots for 7 years before that fight happened, but he still unified two weight classes and nobody heard about it.
Yeah, they heard about it. Again, he was fighter of the year.
No.
He ended up on ESPN.
People in the boxing circles heard about it.
Right.
They didn't
that's what I think boxing is now. I don't think I think the thing you're wrong about. I don't think they'll ever get to the point where they make the fights we want quickly, like you could do at UFC, where they're making them every week. They make those fights you want to see.
It feels like Turki Al-Sheikh is going, how much money will it take you to get in the ring? and that's the conversation.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Guys still don't want to lose.
That's a bit of a different conversation, though, Jimmy.
It's not. It's
It
not.
Is. It's 100%.
Because if you don't want to take a fight you're going to lose unless you're going to make X amount of dollars, and then the X amount of dollars is presented to you, then you're taking that fight.
I don't think guys just don't want to lose. I don't know if they will.
The way that we were promoting
Because
fights,
a loss can literally end your career because you get knocked out. You don't.
Which is why I think the Canelo Alvarez deal that they signed is going to be the thing of the future, where it's like, okay, we're going to give you this much money
before fights,
but we're gonna make it for multiple fights so that you don't lose your star power. You're still out in front of people. You have redemption.
And that's how it used to be. You know who did that? Bob Arum, the man who marketed Sugar Ray Leonard, the man who marketed Larry Holmes, Muhammad Ali
in his prime.
Well, let's get closer.
Bob Arum before he was old enough to
before his
AARP.
son came involved.
Yeah.
That's what. Yeah. Bob Arum.
We have to save the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We're going to do it on the other side of the break. If you just buy or sell tonight, check it out at soundcloud.com/afterhours1620. It was brought to you by our friends at Controlled Comfort Heating and Air. You don't need to sell your AC unit. You probably just need to have it maintained. Have a Controlled Comfort come out and take a look at it, and then make sure your AC unit's ready for the summer. Make sure your heater doesn't go out in the next couple of days. I don't know if you know this. It's going to be cold. Head over to controlledcomfort.com and get a peace of mind about your HVAC unit tonight. We're saving the MCU. Is Robert Downey Jr. coming back a good thing? We'll tell you on the other side of the break. 1620 Zone. It's a Wing Wednesday edition of the After Hours Lounge on 1620 The Zone, brought to you by Pyramid Contractors. Over a decade of being the number one roofer in Omaha. Check out pyramidroof.com for your windows, your gutters, your siding, your roof. They do it all. Check out pyramidroof.com tonight. Michael Severe is in for John Schreiner tonight. I almost said John Bishop for no reason.
Johnny Bishop.
You were planning on going to see Captain America Brave New World tonight.
I was.
But your son had to work, so you chose to come hang out with me instead.
Yeah, he picked up a shift.
Major downgrade for you. Apologize about that.
He picked up a shift and last minute, but my wife's still not feeling great. She had pneumonia.
Is this Miles?
Yeah,
Or-
Miles picked up a shift at the mall. He does Dippin' Dots on occasion,
Gotcha.
along with Hy-Vee, and he's also a coach, esports coach over at Central. But my wife's been kind of under weather too, and she's been coughing, so we decided not to go. But we're gonna go. I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see this movie.
I am too.
Can't wait to go. I'm excited about Fantastic Four. I can't wait for that. But it's just getting all four people together when they all have jobs.
Sure.
Not easy.
How do you feel? Because me personally, I think the multiverse saga has been a giant dumpster fire. Minus the Jonathan Majors, Kang stuff aside.
Yeah.
The movies haven't been very good. Like, I was very disappointed by Multiverse of Madness. I thought Thor: Love and Thunder was awful.
So did you like Deadpool and Wolverine?
Yeah, which I think
Did you like? See, I love the Marvels. Did you like the Marvels? I've watched that multiple
I could have
times.
done without.
Did you
it.
like
It's-
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3?
No, I didn't think it was very.
Oh
good.
my god, I loved it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of it. And you like Black Panther: Wakanda?
Of course, yeah,
Yeah.
it's great.
Okay. Shang-Chi.
There was too many moving parts to it.
My wife and I both liked that one.
I
That's what we
thought
still
the
watch.
movie was good. It was just kind of hard to, kind of like point a target.
And I really liked Black Widow. So out of those movies,
So here's
there
what-
are a couple on here. Like Quantum Mania was just too busy, and they made a bunch of mistakes.
Here's my problem with Black Widow, though. She got blown up like 3 times in the movie, and she's not a superhero.
Yeah, but it's a
And she
comic
was
book.
fine.
That's
No,
what happens.
I get that.
Comic
But
book.
like, that's what Marvel has done a pretty good job of, is keeping.
I mean, Hawkeye got thrown from a building.
When?
He got thrown from a building in his TV show. In the Hawkeye TV show, got thrown through a
that's right.
building, thrown through the glass.
He got was this
punched.
during the multi
No.
saga though?
No,
Is
during-
this in Phase 4?
Isn't the TV show in Phase 4? Yeah.
There's the point I'm trying to
Yeah.
make. Yeah.
No,
so,
but
yeah.
I enjoyed that series. I thought Hawkeye was a good series.
I did too.
Thought the ending was great.
Yeah. I'm really excited for Daredevil Born Again, though. I feel like we're about to get back to Marvel being more like Marvel again. I think they understand their shortcomings. But I think like, my problem with Brave New World, I haven't seen it yet, but is you have Captain America, who was Falcon, who still has wings, but then you have Torres now, who also is the Falcon,
Just like the comic book.
Right.
Mhm.
But
Like the
they're
comic book.
both basically the same superhero.
Well,
Just
no,
one has a shield
I
now.
believe, and I don't know, I haven't seen the movie yet, but based off what I saw in the trailers, and I don't know, it certainly seems like he's got Wakanda technology with his suit.
Yes.
So you can see that because you see the Hulk coming at him.
Right.
And you see the phase
takes
around
a
him.
punch from it.
There's
Yeah,
some
yeah.
sort of phase around him. So he is going to be a little bit different.
It lights up purple too.
But
The suit does. So.
Our first African-American superhero of all time.
Sure.
Has always been this guy.
Right.
And he's always survived. There was a point where they had some super soldier serum when old man
Ezekiel Bradley.
Yeah. So but other than that, I mean, it's always kind of been where he's been a regular guy.
I don't have a problem with him being the Falcon, wings, and the shield.
Yeah.
I think it's a little redundant from movies. And like here's
But again, that's what he was in the comic.
Right. But and that's what I was about to say. Here's what always been my
Captain Falcon was a good 6-7 episodes.
This has always been my biggest problem with comics, though, is you have so many writers about different series, right? And you have you have this one character who was, well, just for this example, a Stan Lee creation that gets morphed by 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different people.
Right.
And then you try to take those adaptations from the comics and apply it to the movies. And now you're taking the directors of the movies, taking these visions from the comics, and it changes it somewhat. Like, to me, like, I think a lot of the reasons that the Captain America, like to me, Winter Soldier is, I think, in my top 5 of the Marvel movies. I love that movie because it has the like buddy cop feel to it with Bucky Barnes, obviously, and all that. But like they're obviously both have super soldier serum, but they're two totally different people, right? Kind of feels like there's repetitiveness now with the Falcon character. And
yeah, I was a comic book reader, and I was a comic book reader for about 40 years.
Yeah.
And I also had the experience about 30 years of not having any movies.
Sure, that's a good point.
And so when the movies came along, I was glad to have them. They were pretty solid. They basically went 20 They basically went 19 of 23.
Yeah.
Which is pretty darn good.
Because Thor: The Dark World was horrible.
Yes, and I don't like any of the Thor movies until Ragnarok,
right?
Because I didn't think they had Thor played very well. I didn't like that.
They tried making it Shakespeare.
And the very first, well, you put a British director in there. That's the problem.
A good point.
British suck. So then you go from there.
USA.
Exactly. Then you go back farther with Incredible Hulk and stuff like that. So they had a couple mistakes, but for the most part, they were money, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, Winter Soldier is my third favorite.
Okay.
Because I have Endgame and Infinity War before those. But it's out of the regular movies.
It's Civil War and then Winter Soldier for me.
See, I love Civil War too. It's in my top 5.
Yep. The Endgame.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
right. So what I do is Winter Soldier for a long time when I first saw it, it's still the one I rewatched the most.
Okay.
By far. Because you know why? They didn't mess around and have to go, let's write a completely new script. They took bits and pieces from the actual comics.
Paid it off, yeah.
And with Civil War, they didn't do exactly the same.
Because they couldn't, because there's no Wolverine.
Yeah, so they took bits and pieces. Even when you go back, so I was a big X-Men growing up, big X-Men fan growing up. First comic book I ever read, 1978. And that's back when Claremont was still writing it. When they made that first movie and I walked out of the theater, I was so mad.
The first X-Men movie?
So mad.
Because none of them were wearing
because nothing
accurate.
was right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all you had to do is take any of the books or storylines, Dark Phoenix or any of the storylines and make a movie out of it. When they finally did that with the X-Men movies, they actually made a couple really good ones.
Yep.
You know?
Days of Future Past.
Well,
fantastic.
For the first X-Men, the first event, what are they called? First Class.
Yeah.
When they made First Class is comic book accurate, right?
Right.
Days of Future Past, comic book accurate with a little bit of differences, right? It wasn't Kitty, it was Kitty Pryde. It was a little bit different.
You added changes in there.
Go back. You had to move changes to go back. But for the most part, they stayed with the same storyline. I think that's been the biggest problem. That's why I'm excited about Fantastic Four, because if you read any of the retro Fantastic Four, that looks like it. She's going to have a baby.
Yep.
She's going to have Nate. It's coming up. You can tell the way she's walking. It's basically right out of the comic book. I think they're going to do a very good job with it. When they stick with the comic book accurate stuff, just by taking the storyline, they do well. When they try to build too far ahead recently, that's where they've struggled. That's why they have seven post-credit storylines that haven't been fulfilled, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it 7?
6 now, because the big head green guy that's in the leader, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Is getting paid off in
He's
this
getting
one
paid off now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you had so many that didn't get paid off. You still got Doctor Strange with the eye in the middle of his head, and you have so many. I think that's where they made the mistake.
And it's really hard. Like, I can't even imagine that job, right? Like, you've got to plan ahead while doing something that hasn't even started yet, essentially. And
that's how people write books.
Right. And they kind of set themselves up because the Nick Fury post-credit scene at the end of Iron Man 1 was so good, right?
Yep.
It's just like, okay, well, now you got to top that every single movie from here on out.
The fact that they had the greatest moment in Marvel history is on your left, by far.
Okay.
I mean, you set that up so far in advance, and when you hear it in the movie, you're like, I can't believe they did that. I can't believe they did that.
I think I might have to disagree.
What is yours?
Because I think it comes seconds after that. Because at the end of the very first Avengers movie, you get the Avengers black screen, right?
Yep,
so you let that hang, and then right after on your left, you get the Captain America holding the Mjolnir.
After everybody
and
comes
then
out,
Avengers assemble with the entire 23 movie history around you. I think that's
great. For me, it'll always be on your left because, one, as a military guy,
well, it's a great line too.
It's a great line. The on the left's a great line, and watching the way Captain America's face when he understood what was happening, and he kind of goes to his earpiece. I remember being in the theater and just yelling.
Yeah,
I was in the back of the theater. I was part of I was in the middle of 100-hour fast too, so it was a different kind of situation for me. And I wasn't eating popcorn,
planet,
but I was screaming in the back, and it took a little while for people to grasp what was happening.
Right,
like I think it took about 2 windows to open, maybe 3, before people started to amp up.
Here we go.
As soon as I heard on your left, I knew exactly. I was like, "Oh my god!"
We're getting 13 years paid off here. The next
here we
10
go.
Seconds.
Yes.
Favorite movie of all time?
Marvel movie?
No, just in general, ever.
Jaws.
Because
saw it first time when I was 6 years old.
Okay.
I've seen it over 40 times in the theater. I've seen it in the water. Watching it on a big screen. I love the lines. I think it's the perfect movie ever made. in the fact, the story behind Jaws and how it wasn't going to be the perfect movie, and how after the movie was over, if they did filming, that Dreyfuss wouldn't even do any advertising. He thought the movie was going to suck. It's just my favorite movie of all time.
For me, it's either Fight Club, which is probably number one for me because the first time I saw it blew my mind, right? Because
which wasn't a hit.
Yeah,
it was
very much
actually
like
kind of
Scarface.
a bust. Yeah,
or Rounders. I love the movie.
Oh, good,
Rounders.
solid lines.
Dan, favorite movie of all time? I don't know if we ever had this discussion.
So left field, but my favorite movie of all time.
I'm sorry, I thought you were telling me your favorite movie was left field. I was like, I have no idea what that is.
The original Chevy Chase Fletch.
Okay.
It's the one movie that I have seen so many times that it is like ad nauseum. It's one that I put it on and I basically just like mumble under my breath the whole time, just quoting it.
If it's somebody I don't like, I don't watch their movies, so I don't appreciate.
Yeah, Chevy
he's
Chase
a horrible person. He's a horrible human.
Yep.
And so I don't watch him. But I know so many people that love Fletch. There's a group of, you're a little bit young for it, but there's an age group among white males that is by far their favorite movie.
I've never seen it.
It's by far their favorite movie. They know all the lines from it.
I know the
constantly.
movie. I've never seen it.
Yeah. So mine goes Jaws, About Last Night, Empire Strikes Back, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and The Martian.
We have to get to Brian Munson really quick, but I have to ask you this question.
Okay.
Thoughts on Jurassic Park, the first one?
Oh, loved it.
Okay.
God, it was amazing.
Okay.
It was amazing.
Hold on, the original Jurassic Park?
Yeah, it was amazing. I remember being in the theater going, oh my God.
When you see that
Way
at
before its
5
time.
years
The first
old,
time, yeah.
as like a kid,
Yeah.
oh,
I was not 5, but
especially like that's how every kid that I know.
And we think
Me and
the
my
fact that
best
it was
friend
made in
still watch
93.
yes. They were just learning how to do it.
The fact that they made that in 93, it still stands the test of time. We're going to get to Brian Munson, talk about Husker football recruiting on the other side of the break. If you missed this segment, check it out at SoundCloud.com/After-Hours1620 is brought to you by Jerry Ryan Clothing and Sportswear, the premier suit buying experience in the Midwest. I bought my wedding suit at Jerry Ryan. Dan bought his wedding suit at Jerry Ryan. If you want to have the best dressed groomsmen that you've ever seen, you need to stop by 78th and Dodge. Check out Jerry Ryan's golf polo options as well. Some of the best options from Rowan, Ms. and Maine, and Johnny O. Check out Jerry Ryan, 78th and Dodge. They've been dressing Omaha for over 50 years. We'll talk to Brian Munson from Husker Online. We come back on 1620 The Zone.
Hi there, folks. You're not going to believe it, but the only time that Jimmy lets me onto the microphone is to remind you the Pepper Jacks has 10 great local locations where I personally can get my steak gunner Philly with all the vegetables, including that sweet, sweet jalapeno sauce. And of course, if I am going to Pepper Jacks, I'm not going to skip out on the fries. It's always my after gym or my cheat day meal whenever I feel like it. So if you want to be just like the gentleman of the After Hours Lounge, get on down to one of Pepper Jack's 10 great local locations tonight.
7:44 on a Wednesday night here on 1620 The Zone, brought to you by Pyramid Contractors. Head over to pyramidroof.com. Book yourself a free estimate. Get your windows, gutters, roof, or your siding replaced. Free estimate.
Should have a clock sponsor.
We should. That is a great idea. Head over to pyramidroof.com. Book that estimate tonight. Joining us now on 1620 The Zone is Brian Munzer from Husker Online. B. Munz, good evening. How are you?
What's up, guys? About as late as I've ever talked to you, I think.
We got stuck talking about comic books, and we went really long. I do apologize.
Sorry about that, B. Munz.
That's my fault.
Sorry about that, dude.
That is like one thing I've never found myself like too caught up on and collecting. So
we were talking about movies, though. We were talking about the MCU, and we got busy yelling at each other.
Oh well, those can be some heated debates.
Hey, I want to ask you about Luke Sorensen, the tight end out of California. He's getting a lot of traction from around the country and getting a ton of offers, including Nebraska. Set up an official visit to come to Lincoln. Where do you put Nebraska on his list right now?
Well, they're in that 4 or 5. You know, he was supposed to come in for that Elite Junior Day weekend and wasn't able to get there. Lincoln Watkins was in from Michigan, and Watkins is a guy that, you know, that Dayton Raiola is working personally, but Sorensen, I think, is probably a little bit ahead of Watkins on the list when it comes to like just overall ball player abilities, right? When it comes to playing tight end, not saying that Lincoln is a slouch. I'm not. I'm just saying Sorensen, you know, he plays at Servite. You know, it's one of the best leagues in the country. So he sees talent out there, you know, week in and week out. So I think Nebraska's in a good spot. Obviously, tight end is a huge, important position in the 2026 class, right? And Nebraska's got to nab a couple of them. So I think Nebraska's in a good spot there with Sorensen. They'll get that visit in June. I'm really interested to see how this is going to kind of come together, guys. I kind of mentioned it in 3 and Out, like how there's been a little bit of loss of momentum coming off that Elite Junior Day. I mean, they went straight from, you know, hosting about 20 guys to going on vacation for a couple of weeks. 4 or 5 of the guys that were there during that period had set up official visits to other schools. Nobody from that weekend yet has set up an official visit back to Nebraska, even though like all of them told me that they were going to come back. So it's you know, there's not been that one weekend that typically stands out as being like the big weekend, right? And usually they try to finish it with that last weekend. So this would be a good sign that Nebraska is getting that last visit, because it's always like it stays fresher, I think, on the mind. You know, you're able to kind of figure out like where people are kind of at NIL wise, I think. So when it comes like to the business part of the trip, you can get down to some brass tacks right there. So I think it's a really good sign Nebraska's getting that last official visit in June.
Hey, B. Munz, I know it's not the thing it used to be in terms of when we're talking about how good of a recruiter is, because a lot of things have changed when it comes to just paying guys. But with EJ Barthel getting this extension, in your opinion, how good of a recruiter is he, especially in terms of what he can do bringing in running backs that maybe have a higher name than maybe some of the ones he's already brought in?
Yeah, I think he is a great recruiter. I think he's a great talent evaluator. I think he has a name that people don't realize goes beyond just the time that he has spent there at Nebraska. And he is was severely underpaid. And I think it's one of those things too, like as we kind of watch things kind of move forward, you know, another year or so to get, you know, he's got a 2-year deal added on to his contract. I think it's still going to be one of those things where those types of schools, like we had with Texas and Penn State, you know, throwing names around, you know, those 2 big kind of schools that make the college football playoffs, those types of salaries are not going to keep them away. They're still going to be very interested in putting together the best staff possible, because I think those that spent money this last year showed good return on investment. And that is going to be something that's going to continue to drive more spend in college football when it comes to putting together those kind of premier staffs. Not that it wasn't already, but you know, prior to the expansion of the college football playoff. But I think as these case studies kind of continue to kind of keep moving forward, and people are examining the salaries of the payroll of the players and the NIL and the shared revenue and all that good stuff. They're also looking at obviously what the entire coaching staff is making. And I think those are going to be some facts and figures that people are going to be paying attention to. How much money do you have to should you be putting together to put together that kind of staff to have those types of opportunities to get into the college football playoff consistently?
One other thing people are going to keep an eye on is the roster size and the spots that are being taken up, because the roster limit's being put on at 105. We were having this conversation last night, John Schreiner and I, where what position do you think is going to be affected the most and maybe less recruited with the 105 cut?
It's a great question. Man, it's tough.
I said running back and John said tight end.
I think tight end's gonna take a hit just because of the type of offense that Holgorsen wants to run. I don't think that, the days of the true tight, hand in the dirt, Ben Cotton looking dudes, I think they're over. And at least that is as long as Dana is the offensive coordinator. They just don't have a place in his offense. Bear Tenney is a perfect example. Nebraska shifted gears with him really quick and said, you want to come to Nebraska still? Cool. You're an offensive tackle. Well, I don't want to play offensive tackle. Well, we don't really need any 6'8", 275-pound tight ends either. I mean, he was massive. I mean, he was just a huge dude. So I think that as long as you're still talking about like the Carter Nelsons, the Sorensens, the Watkins, the Harburgs, the 6'5", 225 to 240-pound guys that are running 4.5, 4.6, jumping out of the gym, winning slam dunk competitions, they're in Lincoln. That's the kind of athleticism that they're really looking for at that kind of hybrid Y. I call it like a flex style, jumbo X, bigger X wide receiver. And so I think that that's true. You don't need quite as many of those guys, kind of around. Numbers are always going to be in the back end of that defense, just because of the type of style that they run, with having that many defensive backs out there. So the numbers have got to stay consistent there. Running back, I could see them taking a little bit of a hit there, because you got to bump your numbers up on your special teams guys.
Yep.
I mean, this is something that people aren't talking about. You don't have an ability to ask the student body to show up for tryouts on Monday when they have bad snaps or missed field goals on Saturday. You've got to have a firm number and members on that roster. So you've got to have at least one full-time, deep snapper and maybe a guy or two that's done it before in the past that you have ready to go in emergency situations, and two kickers and one guy that can do kickoffs and, and the punter that can do everything. So it's really going to be odd to kind of see that, but I can see tight end, taking a little bit of getting a slice out. And then maybe, obviously I think defensive line for some reason too is still a big, just because of the type of fronts that they run. I think that they would rather put, they had 11 Dawson Merritts, they'd put them all out there. I mean, if they had a choice to kind of go a little undersized and kind of do two walk-up guys, I think that they would do it just to go ahead and just increase their athleticism.
Yeah, I agree with you on the hands in the dirt tight end. You're not going to see a lot of those blocking guys, but I think the displaced tight end who also swings into kind of being a big wide receiver, that's critical in this. The way Dana's changed his offense over the last 3 or 4 years, that's the guy who's going to touch the ball. I don't know, probably the X receiver will touch the ball the first. Then I think it'll be that displaced tight end / wide receiver, and then it'll be the running back come out of the backfield. So those guys, finding them though, that's a guy that's hard to recruit, right? Because I'm assuming most of those guys are the guys that are going to be getting the most cash to go to schools.
Yeah, they are. I mean, and then you also got, you're going to have some incredible competitiveness at the slot position too.
Yep.
Barney and Mosey and Cortez Mills, talking about how he's going to take some snaps there at slot as well. So I do feel like that position is going to still remain like that displaced tight end, that kind of, like I said, jumbo X is how I kind of always refer to him.
Mm-hmm.
I see that guy as still remaining kind of a mainstay in that offense. I think that those guys are really what is kind of fashionable when it comes to NFL. And I think that Nebraska is very into that when it comes to understanding like what those guys look like, the Dalton Kincaid, the Kelseys, the guys that are, the Gronks are great, but the Gronks don't grow on trees.
No.
And you need to find the guys though, however, that are being successful, and Noah Fant, and those kind of guys, the 6'5", 250 guys that run a 4.6, 4.7 at that level, but a little bit smaller, a little bit more explosive, and can really stretch the field in the college game.
Munson, we asked the tough questions, and I just asked this question to Michael in the last segment. What's the greatest movie ever made?
The Big Lebowski.
Oh,
you know what? I think I knew the answer to that before I asked that question. Hey, Brian.
I think I probably watched it 1,000 times. There's a bunch of other ones that would compete. I love The Fury as well with Brad Pitt.
Brian, we apologize about the delay in getting to you tonight. I appreciate your time. We'll catch up with you next week.
You're good, guys. We'll see you.
Thanks, Pete Munson.
That's Brian Munson from Husker Online. You can find all of his work at huskeronline.com, as well as Brian Munson _ on Twitter. That's going to do it for the show tonight. We're going to have to wrap it up because we went long talking about comic books. If you missed any of it, it is a Wing Wednesday. Head over to our Twitter page at After Hours 1620. Retweet the gift of the wings. It's not too late. We'll get you entered into a drawing to win a $25 gift card to Cunningham's Pub. Our show tonight was brought to you by our friends at Papillion Sanitation. If you need new trash service, or maybe you're looking for a new job, head over to papillionsanitation.com. For Jimmy Allen, John Shiner.
Hey, John!
He's working tonight. Dan Campion. That's Michael Severe. National Chocolate Mint Day is today. Go out and celebrate.
I love it.